That's good. I love this cup. And don't worry, you have nothing to worry about. Happy New Year, everybody. Can you believe that it is 2021? I swear, at the beginning of last year, I never thought that year was gonna end. It just kept going and going. It went so slow. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're in 2021. So, welcome to the new year. I hope you have some really exciting targets and goals for this year, and I hope I can help you accomplish them. So let's get started with this first video, which is the first one of the year. Will Simpson here, and welcome to Exploring Photography 2021. Today, we're gonna go over how to create a preset. Now, the cool thing about this video is I'm going to show you, and you can follow along, the step-by-step process of doing an edit and then saving it as a preset. Now, this preset will be workable for a lot of your photos. You can absolutely save this preset for you to use later. And you can call it whatever you want, just, whatever. A couple of notes on presets though. Presets are not a complete edit. There's this misunderstanding about presets that you slap on a preset and boom, that is a banger photo and it is ready to publish. And yeah, some presets do make photos look incredible. However, it's not what presets are designed for. Presets are designed to give you a base edit. So you apply the preset and then you adjust as needed. They are not a full edit. So if you're using them as a full edit, then that's okay, but you can increase your ability by adjusting those presets to really fit your style and your photos. It's a place to start, not a place to finish. The other thing to note is presets do not work with every photo. Some presets are designed for landscape, some are designed for portraits, some are designed for close-up, some are designed for dark images, some are designed for cloudy, moody, etc., etc. Yes, they all give a specific style, but if you've ever bought a preset pack, put up a photo in Lightroom, and then scrolled through the examples of those presets, you were probably wondering why they look so shitty. That's because presets are designed for specific photos and again, do not work with everything. Plus, lighting, exposure, all of that come into play, and we're gonna work on that in this video. In addition, somewhere in this video, I'm gonna throw in a little special gift for you, so keep watching. It's probably not gonna be right at the very end, but you never know, it could be. All right, so we're in Lightroom, and this is the photo we're gonna be editing. Now, I've already done the edit, so this is what the final product will look like. This preset is gonna be primarily for landscapes and things like that, but it will work for a variety of other images. So let's go ahead and reset this photo. We're gonna come down here and click Reset. This is our original raw file. Now, if you look up here at our settings, our ISO is 100, 16 millimeter is what it was shot at, f4, and our shutter was 1/1600. And you notice I have a pretty good histogram here. What this is, really fast, these are your highlights, these are your shadows, this is everything in between. And what you want when you expose is kind of a middle ground here, but because I was shooting into the sun, I'm gonna have a lot of bright highlights, and I'm gonna have a lot of dark shadows with everything kind of mid-range. So this is a good exposed photo, but I could have done better, to be honest. Let's get started. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go into lens correction and press enable profile corrections and chromatic aberration. This removes any of those green and purplish lines you get on like the sides here where the light is kind of discoloring things, and it picks up basically lens aberrations where the lens records the color wrong. So if you have like green or purplish, this should handle it. The enable profile corrections, when you're shooting a wide angle, it kind of bends the photo because the lens, it's wide angle, so it's gonna be curved a little bit. This handles that. So you notice it kind of bows and then it fixes, so it gives you a straighter horizon. And you can adjust that. It's pretty good at knowing what you're shooting with, but in this case, I shot with a Canon 1635 2.8, and it will automatically adjust that most of the times. The next thing we're gonna do is go into basic. This is where we adjust all the exposures, the highlights, the shadows, whatnot. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna drop the highlights all the way down to get more exposure in the sky here. Then we're gonna raise the shadows to get those shadows back. The reason I do that first is because you don't wanna necessarily adjust the exposure. Let's say I reset all these and I adjust the exposure, it blows out, it brightens the whole image. We wanna do more specific editing. So lower the shadows, raise the highlights. The next thing is we're gonna set the white and black points. Now you can do this two ways. You can press Shift, double click on the slider, and it'll automatically adjust it. Now in this case, it went negative, it went down, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna press Option, Alter Option, click on the slider, and we're gonna slide it up until we see the exposure of the whites. So right there is where the whites are overexposed in that top right corner. We're gonna leave it there. And then we're gonna do the blacks. Again, you can press Shift and double click on it, and it'll automatically set it to the black point, or you can press Option and slide it until you see black, which is right there. I prefer doing the Option slide button. I feel like it's a little bit more accurate for me. The next thing we're gonna do is scroll down to texture. We're gonna reduce the texture a shade, -2. On these sliders here, the presence sliders, you wanna do them very subtly because they make big, big differences. So on the clarity, we're gonna do +10. This will just make things a little sharper. And again, you wanna be very subtle with these. If you go too much clarity, that looks crazy. I mean, it looks cool. When you first see it, you're like, hell yeah, let's do that. But it's overdone. If you go too little, it makes it look way too soft and dreamy, and that's just way too much. So either slightly lower it or slightly raise it, up to your style. We're gonna slightly raise it for this preset specifically. The next thing is the dehaze, and we're gonna raise that to +14. Not too much, not too little, just to kind of clear up any haze that is in the image. +12, sure. Now, I'm a big fan of doing lower saturation and raising the vibrance. So in this case here, we're gonna lower the saturation to -10, and then I'm gonna raise the vibrance to +14. So that gives me kind of more colors, prominent colors in the image, rather than raising all the colors as a whole. I just find it looks a little bit more natural. Personal preference. Again, you can adjust them as needed. Now on the white balance, I never adjust the white balance unless it needs it. In this image, you could go warm, you could go cool. Both look, well, that's way too, gross. That's way too much. But you can adjust it as needed. If you want a warmer image, raise the temperature. If you want a cooler image, you lower the temperature. For this image, I'm gonna leave it set as is. For the preset, set as is. And then again, same with the tint. For this image, I'm actually gonna lower it to +9, just a shade, because it looks a little bit better. There's less magenta. I mean, I could add magenta, but that's too much. Yeah, I like the +9, it works better. The next thing is the contrast, and we're simply gonna raise contrast by +9, just a bit. So just with that alone, we have made changes. We have gone from this to this, and that is a huge difference just with that alone. Now, when you use this preset, one thing you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to set the white and black points for every image. As you apply this preset to other images, make sure you come in here and set the white and black points, adjust the highlights and shadows to fit that image. The other thing is we're not gonna mess with exposure, and we're not gonna save the exposure in the preset because, again, every image is either light, dark, no image is exactly the same, so you'll have to adjust the exposure if needed because we're not gonna save it in the preset. One thing that I forgot to do is we're gonna actually crop the image, so we're gonna press the crop tool up here, we're gonna straighten it out a little because it's not straight, and then we're going to zoom in just a shade, and I think that works. That works. You can also press the crop tool, use this angle tool, and you can draw the horizon. Now there's not really a clear cut horizon here, so it might not work as well, but I think we had it good. Nope, it's a little low here, so I'm gonna erase that. Okay, sure, that looks good enough for me. The next step we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the curve adjustment. We're gonna do very minor adjustments in the tone curve because you can definitely overdo it. The tone curve is super powerful. For example, if you take the shadows, you lower them down, take the midtones, raise them up, put another point in there, and then take out the highlights, it looks like garbage. Right click on it, reset all channels. What we're gonna do is we're gonna just lower the shadows just a shade, and then we're going to just raise the midtones just under that main line there, and then we're going to raise the pure black point to put a little bit of haze. Again, very minor adjustments, super minor. And if you click this little toggle switch here, you can see the difference that it made. It just increased the contrast in the blacks, in the shadows, and in the highlights, and it kind of cleaned up the image. It adds more contrast, so it makes the image clearer. And that's all we're gonna do with that one. So let's go into the HSL, and here is our hue, our saturation, and our luminance. These are really fun to play with and allow you to create even more contrast in the image. For example, if you lighten the blues and you darken the oranges in the luminance tab, you create more contrast. So you can actually play around with this and really get it to the way you like it. The first thing we're gonna do is adjust the hue. So we're gonna raise the yellow to +12. We're gonna lower the green to about -9. We're gonna do the aquas to -7 or so. We're gonna do the blues to +12. Just slight adjustments to increase the color and contrast. The next thing is saturation. We're gonna raise the reds to just +9. That doesn't really affect too much of this image, but it will help give more pop in the reds and oranges. Then we're gonna raise the oranges +1, very minor, and we're gonna lower the yellows to -20. Now the reason we're doing this is because yellow and green are very closely connected. When you adjust greens, you're primarily adjusting yellows. You'll find that when you want to tweak the green color, you kind of play with the yellow slider. So in this case, we want to take some of the yellow out because we're going to brighten it up in luminance. So let's go to luminance, and then we're going to raise the yellow +14. Now watch over here on the trees as I raise this to +14. If I raise it, it looks like the light, the sun, is hitting them more. So we're not going to do too much because we don't want to overdo it. We're just going to do +15. That works. Then on the greens, we're going to darken the greens, and you'll notice that not much occurs, but if I go back and forth, you'll notice substantial difference. So we're just gonna lower this to -40. Well, let's just do -40. Okay, good. And then we're going to do the blues. We're gonna do -19 to darken that sky, make it kind of stand out a little bit more, contrast against the clouds. So -18 works. And that is it for our HSL, which gives you a much higher contrast in the image. So let's do the before, after. Big changes in the sky, minor changes in the foreground, in the trees, but with those little bit of changes, you create a lot more contrast in the image as a whole. The next thing we're gonna go into is color grading. Now we're gonna click on the shadows, and this is going to add color into shadows, midtones, and highlights specifically. It's not the whole image, it's just those specific parts. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the shadows. We're gonna do kind of a teal color at 195. And the saturation very little at 11. Then we're gonna do the midtones. The midtones we're gonna do 21. So we're adding like an orangey hue, 21. And then we're going to do a saturation of 2. So very, very minor. Then we're gonna go into the highlights. And with the highlights, we're gonna do some more orangey color and the saturation of 9. So very little adjustments. If you want to understand the color grading tool, I did a whole video dedicated to it a couple of weeks ago. I'll link it in the description, or you can just go to videos on my channel, but it's there, and it is a great tool to understand how to use. So the next thing we're going to go into is the detail, and we're not going to do too much here. You can adjust this as image specific. The only thing we're really gonna do is we're gonna add some noise reduction of 40. Then we're gonna add some masking. So if you press Alt or Option, click the slider, you'll see everything is white. That means that everything in the image is receiving the sharpening of 40 points up here. What we're gonna do is slide the slider. The black is not getting the sharpening, and the white is getting the sharpening. So we're gonna slide this to about 60 because we want just the lines, the clear-cut lines, to get the sharpening to really make the difference in the image. Again, this is very subtle. You might not even notice it, but it does make a difference. Next thing is the effects. We're going to come down to effects, and we're going to add a little bit of vignetting to pull your attention in. Then we're gonna go to calibration, and I love this tool. I actually should do a whole video on this tool. If you guys wanna see that, just comment below. But this tool really sets the tones of the colors. In this, all we're simply gonna do is change the blue primary and slide it to about 0.30. This is going to really intensify the orange and blue contrast, and it's used a lot on Instagram posts, photography. Peter McKinnon uses this a lot because it creates that really nice, beautiful contrast blue and orange look. So we're just gonna do -30, and if you do the before and after, you can see a big difference. So before, after, really makes those teals come out and those oranges come out. If you look in the rocks here and even in the railings, you'll notice a big change. So that just kind of pops the image a lot more. And that wraps up our presets. Now, there is a little extra that you can do to make your presets a little bit more intense. But first, remember that special gift I mentioned. As you know, and you've probably seen it on the side of Lightroom as we've been doing this edit, I have 2 packs of my own presets that I have created. There's a free set pack, which is on the website for free, and then there's the Exploring Photography 2020 pack. That one is $20. But because you've watched this video, if you use code PRESET50, that will give you 50% off those presets, which will make them, instead of $20, $10 because you watched this video, as my special gift to you. But let's go into the special feature that you can add to presets to make them even better. And that is, you can add the local adjustments. So this image looks really good as is, but there needs to be more attention to pull you into the image. So what we're gonna do is go over to the graduated filter up here, click it, and then press shift and pull down here. That'll give you a perfectly straight graduated filter rather than, if you don't hold shift, you can move it back and forth. You hold shift, it keeps it perfectly horizontal. We're gonna drag it down there, and then we're going to darken it and really pull your attention, and then we're gonna create another one. Again, press shift, and we're gonna do that and pull your attention into the image. Again, I did a video on graduated filters also a couple of weeks ago, so go check that video out. I'll link it in the description once you finish with this one. Now I notice with this one, I'm gonna click the top one and I'm gonna drag it up a little. Oops, delete that. I'm gonna drag it up, maybe. Okay, there we go. Drag it up because it was darkening too much, and then I'm gonna move this up a little because I just wanna pull your attention. Okay, so now we are done. So here is the before and after. Before, after. So that is an incredible looking preset, which you can use across the boards on almost any edit. Now, to save it, all you're gonna do is you're gonna go up here to develop, you're gonna click new preset, then you're going to create a group. See, it's kind of default to user presets. Let's create a group. Let's create YouTube preset. And then we are going to name this bad boy awesome preset, yeah. Or whatever you want to name it. And then you set the settings that you want it to record. Remember I said in the beginning, you do not want to adjust the exposure, so make sure exposure isn't checked. White balance, fine. Treatment of profile, fine. All of these are okay. Tone curve, texture, clarity, all this is fine. No noise reduction, that's fine. Make sure graduated filters is selected because you want them to save those graduated filters. You can adjust them in the later images, but you want it to apply them. All the color, saturation, vibrance, yes. Lens corrections, yes. You do not have to do that if you don't want to, so you just uncheck it. Transform, you're probably gonna crop it and adjust each image individually, so don't worry about that. Effects, you want the vignetting, and calibration, yes. Once that is done, press create, and you'll notice here on the left-hand side, YouTube preset, awesome preset, yeah. Boom, done. Presets, baby. Yeah, I just did finger guns. Anyways, there is your New Year's preset. I hope you greatly enjoy it and find a lot of use out of it. If you guys want to get any of my presets, remember to use code preset50 on my website for 50% off your preset pack, your Will's Been Here 2020 preset pack. But that is it for this video, guys. I hope you greatly enjoyed the edit process, how to create presets, and I really hope you enjoyed this preset. If you did like this video, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already. I do videos like this every Monday at 7 p.m. Otherwise, I think we're done. Welcome to 2021, guys. Let's make this a killer year.